Well, for everybody, that works out. What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light. That's right. Kick back with the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here's the Sunday games for Week 17, spreads and totals. Sundays are easy to enjoy when they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer. These are the games we're locking in on, the highest point totals of the week, starting with Falcons at Commanders. Your Commanders, Matthew Berry. They are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. And listen, it's been a tough go of it for Brian Robinson Jr., but still makes your top 20 running backs this week, Matthew. So still looking like a start despite the tough couple weeks here.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, there's a lot of obvious starts in here. Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. I do think Ertz is a viable streamer as a top 12 tight end in this one as well. But I'm going back to Brian Robinson. Really tough day at the office last week with the 2 fumbles. Didn't play well against Philadelphia. But prior to last week, he was averaging basically 18 touches a game, over 14 fantasy points. I think there's a very good chance he gets into the end zone in a game in which the Commanders are favored by over 3, over under 47.5. We expect a lot of scoring. And when they're scoring, usually Brian Robinson's involved. I have him as a top 20 play this week.
Packers going on the road to Minnesota, but they are a point favorite. More importantly here, Pat, the point total is 48. And the question is, can this Vikings team push Green Bay into a more pass-heavy script? Jordan Love's thrown for over 230 yards in only one of his last 5 games.
He hasn't cleared 30 attempts since November 3rd, so fantasy managers are understandably wary. This is finally going to be the week, but my feeling on this is that the Packers had this exact same test 3 weeks ago against the Lions. High game total, a dome, guaranteed shootout against the Lions defense that had an elite run defense. And the Packers still placed a bet that they could win like a run-heavy defensive struggle. They had 7 first-half pass attempts. They go into halftime down 17-7. Then they come out pass-happy in the second half. I think they learned their lesson there, so to speak. And even though they want to play run-first, conservative style, they're going to know they cannot do that against a Vikings team that stops the run, gives up a ton of production in the secondary, and aligns with the Packers' skills. They have a great receiver core. They have a quarterback who can throw down the field. They might not want the turnovers, but I think they learned their lesson against the Lions, and this time it is actually going to count, and they are actually going to pass.
Our final game here, Matthew, the Panthers at the Bucs. The Bucs are 8-point favorites. The over-under is 48.5 points, very similar to Packers-Vikings. Does that make Bryce Young a viable streamer in this matchup? We know how much this Bucs secondary has struggled all year long.
Yeah, only one team in the NFL has allowed more fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're a bottom 3 pass defense on the entire season. And so Bryce Young, who in the 5 games since he's come out of his Week 11 bye, is averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. Yes, I do think he's a viable streamer. Now, one caveat to that is if Adam Thielen doesn't play, you'd feel a lot worse about that. He showed up on the injury report. He was limited in practice on Thursday with a hamstring. Thielen's had at least a 24% target share now in 4 straight games. He's wide receiver 17 over that time frame. If Thielen can't go, hey, Cokeheads, rise up. It might be our time. Jalen Coker gets going in this one as well. Chuba Hubbard is an obvious start on the Panthers side of the ball. But if Thielen is active, again, I am at 23, so I'm as a high-end flex, low-end wide receiver too. But if Thielen's active, I do think Bryce Young, I'm at QB 16. Let's not get crazy. But I think he's a viable streamer. If you're in a deeper league, you lose Jalen Hurts, you're sitting there looking for somebody as well. Again, I think he's a mid-tier QB2 on the Week 17 slate. It's worth noting, and I'm sure this is true with Pat as well, but if you go and look at my rankings on RotoWorld, we take the players out after every game. So there have been 6 teams that have been removed, the 2 Wednesday games and the Thursday night game, as you see the ranks. And then when we get to Sunday morning, obviously, 3 more games, 6 more teams will be removed. So you'll be like, I can't believe Jalen Coker is wide receiver 18. Well, that's because half the league has already played. You know what I mean? So just understand that's how we do the rankings here at NBC Sports.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.